Could international dressage be about to take another significant step toward giving riders more choice and horses more consideration? The first draft of the proposed FEI rule changes for 2027 has now been published, and several of the ideas under discussion go directly to the heart of the sport's ongoing welfare debate. Should Grand Prix riders be allowed to compete in a snaffle at every level? Should horses be permitted to wear earplugs during musical freestyles? Should sensitive horses be excused from crowded, noisy prize-giving ceremonies? And should the public be allowed to read what judges actually write on their score sheets? These may sound like separate questions, but together they reveal something much larger. Dressage is attempting to decide how tradition, transparency, competitive fairness, and horse welfare should coexist in the modern era. Before we go any further, one point is essential. These are proposals. They are part of the FEI's full dressage rules review and have not yet been approved as the final rules for 2027. Nevertheless, the debate surrounding them tells us a great deal about where the sport may be heading. Perhaps the most controversial subject is the double bridle. From the beginning of 2026, riders were given the choice of using either a snaffle or a double bridle in FEI competitions up to CDI 3-star level. That was a major change after years of discussion, because the double bridle had long been treated as almost as a symbol of advanced dressage. Now the Swedish Federation, supported by British Equestrian, wants that choice extended to all Grand Prix competitions, including the highest levels of the sport. Their position is straightforward. The rider should be able to choose the bridle that best suits the individual horse. That does not necessarily mean the double bridle should disappear. It means it would no longer be compulsory simply because a combination had reached a particular competition level. This distinction matters. A double bridle uses both a bradoon and a curb bit, giving the rider two reins and more ways to influence the horse. In educated, sensitive hands, it can be used with great subtlety, but it also creates greater potential for pressure, especially when combined with a tight noseband, strong rein contact, or an already tense way of going. A snaffle is not automatically kinder, and a double bridle is not automatically cruel. Any piece of equipment can be used well or badly, but if a horse performs more confidently, comfortably, and harmoniously in a snaffle, why should the rules force its rider to add another bit? That is the question behind the proposal. The FEI Dressage Technical Committee is not yet convinced that the rule should be expanded. It has pointed out that the existing 2026 change already gives riders a choice in the overwhelmingly majority of the FEI dressage competitions. The committee has also stated that it does not consider the double bridle at top sport level to be, in itself, a welfare problem. Its position is that more evidence should be gathered before the FEI makes another change, and collecting evidence is reasonable. Rules affecting international competition should not be rewritten purely because one option sounds more progressive. But there is another side to that argument. If the snaffle is considered acceptable for Grand Prix at a 3-star show, why should the same equipment suddenly become unsuitable when essentially the same movements are performed at a higher status competition? The horse does not understand whether it is entering a CDI 3-star, a 5-star, or a championship arena. It only understands the signals, pressure, and comfort of the equipment it is wearing. Consistency across the levels would also give the sport an opportunity to observe what riders actually choose when that choice is genuine. Do most remain with the double bridle? Do particular horses improve in a snaffle? Do judges reward both options equally? Real competition data could answer some of the questions that opinion alone cannot. The double bridle debate also extends to junior dressage. There had previously been discussion about prohibiting double bridles in junior competitions, but the Dressage Technical Committee now supports retaining the choice between a snaffle and a double. The German Federation and the European Equestrian Federation have strongly opposed removing the double bridle from junior classes. Once again, the most sensible principle may be informed choice, but choice must be accompanied by education. Young riders should not feel pressure to use more equipment because it looks prestigious or supposedly signals that they have reached a more advanced level. The correct bridle should be the one in which the horse demonstrates the best balance, acceptance, confidence, and freedom of movement. And that brings us to another surprising proposal: equine earplugs. Several equestrian organizations, including the European Equestrian Federation and the United States Federation, have asked for earplugs to be permitted during competition. At present, they are allowed in limited circumstances, such as horse inspections and prize givings, but not during the actual dressage test. The FEI committee has shown support for allowing them specifically in musical freestyles. At first, this may sound like a simple welfare improvement. Freestyle music can be loud, arenas can echo, and spectators may react enthusiastically. A sensitive horse can find that environment overwhelming. Earplugs could potentially soften the intensity of the sound and help the horse remain relaxed. But British Equestrian has raised an important concern. Reducing a horse's hearing could cause it to rely more heavily on its other senses, possibly making some horses more reactive rather than less. Instead of focusing only on what is placed inside the horse's ears, British Equestrian has suggested addressing the environment itself. That can mean establishing a maximum decibel level for freestyle music and examining the quality, consistency, and dynamics of venue sound systems. This may be one of the most thoughtful proposals in the entire review. If the music is so loud that horses require earplugs to tolerate it, perhaps the first question should not be how to block the sound. Perhaps it should be why the sound needs to be so loud in the first place. Dressage freestyles are meant to combine athletic performance with artistry and emotion. The music should enhance the performance, not create an additional stress test for the horse. A clear sound limit could offer a more universal solution. Earplugs might still help particular horses, but organizers would also carry responsibility for creating a suitable environment. The proposed changes then move beyond the competition arena and into prize-giving ceremonies. The International Dressage Riders Club and German Federation have proposed that riders should be allowed to attend a ceremony unmounted or ride a different horse. Prize givings may appear celebratory to spectators, but they can be difficult for horses. There is applause, music, movement, flags, flowers, other excited horses, and sometimes a fast and crowded lap of honor. For an experienced horse, this may be manageable. For a young, sensitive, or already tired horse, it can become an unnecessary source of strain. Under the proposal, a rider could still fulfill the ceremonial responsibilities of competition without forcing that particular horse to remain in an environment it was struggling to handle. The FEI has indicated that when mounted attendance is required, riders could be allowed to use an alternative horse. Prize-giving protocols are still being reviewed. This sounds like a relatively small administrative change, yet it represents an important philosophical shift. Welfare should not end when the final halt has been completed. If the sport recognizes that a horse is uncomfortable, it should not demand continued participation merely because tradition expects a mounted photograph and a lap of honor. Finally, the proposed rule debates consider something that affects not only riders and judges, but also spectators: transparency. There have been calls for judges' written comments to be made public alongside scores. In theory, that could help viewers understand why a movement received a particular mark. It might also make judging feel more accountable in a sport frequently criticized for inconsistent or difficult to explain results. British Equestrian, however, has warned of possible unintended consequences. Comments written quickly during a test might be misunderstood when removed from their technical context. Judges might also begin softening their language if they know every comment will be published and examined online. As a compromise, British Equestrian has suggested publishing only the overall summary comment at the end of each test, rather than every note written beside individual movements. That summary could explain how the judge viewed the complete performance, while reducing the risk that a few hurry words become a social media controversy. The Dressage Technical Committee supports efforts to improve transparency, but it also recognizes the danger that public scrutiny can make judges less specific. If the comments become vague and cautious, they lose much of their educational value. This is challenging running through almost every proposal. A rule can have good intentions and still produce unintended results. Earplugs may calm one horse but make another more reactive. Publishing comments may improve openness but discourage honest feedback. A double bridle may enable refined communication for one partnership while creating unnecessary pressure for another. Even allowing horses to miss prize giving requires a fair and practical procedure so that welfare is protected without creating confusion. The answer is not to reject change. It is to design change carefully, monitor its results, and remain willing to adjust when the evidence demands it. These proposals also arrive at a critical moment for dressage. Public attention is no longer focused only on medals, percentages, and spectacular movement. Viewers are watching mouths, tails, neck positions, expressions, and reactions. They are asking whether the performance looks willing. They are asking whether the horse appears comfortable. And increasingly, they are asking whether the rules reward the values the sport claims to represent. Equipment choices alone cannot solve dressage's welfare problems. A snaffle will not automatically create harmony. Earplugs will not fix an unsuitable competition environment. A revised prize-giving rule will not compensate for poor training. But rules shape incentives. They tell riders what is permitted, judges what should be valued, and organizers what standards they are expected to meet. The most important question for 2027 is therefore not whether dressage should abandon all of its traditions. It is whether tradition should remain compulsory when a reasonable, horse-centered alternative exists. Should the double bridle remain mandatory at the highest level, or should riders be trusted to choose? Should horses adapt to powerful freestyle sound systems, or should venues control the volume? Should every horse be required to endure a prize giving even when the ceremony is clearly causing distress? And can judging become more transparent without making meaningful feedback impossible? There are no perfect answers yet. That is precisely why this consultation matters. The first draft is not the finished destination. It is the beginning of a wider argument about what international dressage wants to become. And perhaps the best measure of every proposed change is remarkably simple. Does it make the sport clearer, fairer, and safer? And does it allow the horse to remain a willing participant rather than merely the performer carrying us through the test? Now I want to hear what you think. Should snaffles be permitted at every level of Grand Prix dressage? Would earplugs protect horses in freestyles, or should the FEI focus on limiting music volume instead? And should riders be allowed to withdraw sensitive horses from mounted prize givings? Thank you so much for joining us, and remember, I am not AI. If you listen closely, you can hear me breathing.